You're listening to Exploring Anime with Friends, a JMO for Real podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all major podcasting networks. I'm your host, JMO! And today's friend is my wife and co-host, Sarah. How's it going today, Sarah?
It's going great.
Awesome. You looking forward to today's show?
I am. I absolutely am.
Oh, are you? I'm guessing not quite as much as other ones that we've done.
This one's interesting.
In case you didn't realize it, this week we are on one of the movie specials. The last couple of times that we did our special edition ones, they were special edition ones on other services and best of 2024. This is our first movie of the new year. Excited to be doing that. For our first movie of the new year, we decided to go all the way back to 1983. Today we'll be exploring Unico in the Island of Magic, a fantasy made in July of 1983. First, we will take a look at our main protagonist, Unico, and learn a little bit about this mysterious little unicorn. Afterwards, we will take a look at the conflict that is presented before him by Karuko and Toby. Afterwards, we will look at some of the friends that Unico makes along the way. And finally, the journey that they take in order to stop the evil overlord, Karuko. And remember, if you like what you hear today, be sure to follow us on social media, like, subscribe, and follow. Unico, so opening scene. Talk to us a little bit about this opening scene that you love so much, Sarah.
Unico gets just ditched on this mountain by this wind goddess.
Spirit. Not 100% sure what it is. They don't go into too much detail.
So literally, she's like, I was supposed to take you to this terrible, horrible place, but I'm going to drop you here instead. You're going to be alone, but at least you're not over in that horrible place. And then she just ditches him.
Yeah, and the only thing that Unico has any memories of is that his name is Unico.
That's all he has.
That's all Unico has, left in a strange forest with strange beings and simply a name. And I guess a general of what it is. I guess it knows that it's a unicorn.
I mean, he just keeps saying, I'm Unico. I don't even know if he knows really what a unicorn is at that point.
Clearly doesn't know the full extent of his powers,
definitely,
as he learns
as
later
seen
on
later,
along
yes,
the journey.
No, he definitely doesn't know.
But yeah, no, that's pretty simple. Talk to us a little about Unico's personality.
Unico is very adorable. It's a small unicorn, which also adds to the adorableness. He's brave, definitely. At the beginning, you don't really get a chance to see much. He's just this kind of shy, awkward little guy.
I wouldn't call him awkward. I would call him wide-eyed. Maybe a little shy, but very curious.
He's got no clue what's going on or where he is or what anything is.
It's probably the exact way that you would respond, unless you're going to crawl up into a ball and try to hide, probably the exact way that you would respond if you were randomly thrown into a forest with no memories.
Yeah.
Right? So really when it comes down to it, but in the end, Unico knows that he's here for a reason, or believes he's here for a reason, and knows what's right and what's wrong, and knows to do what's right, even if it means it's the hard thing.
Yeah.
I think there's a purity, there's an innocence about Unico that is actually very inspiring. And yes, there's also a naiveness, but really I kind of like the character for how simplistic the character is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, and on the other side, this is a very black and white film. Obviously, It's in color, and the artwork is actually pretty nice. The opening scene looks really pretty.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, when you consider that this was made in 1983, that's 41 years ago at this point. No, 42 years ago at this point in time. It actually holds up better than some of the stuff released in the late 90s. Yeah, I went there. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a very black and white anime. The good are good. The bad are bad. And Karuko is bad.
He's bad.
Talk to us about Karuko.
So Karuko is this wizard. And he has an apprentice named Toby. And Toby's just trying to learn all this magic. And Karuko's kind of a jerk. He's only giving him little bits and pieces. He's having Toby go out. And at first it's just all the animals in the area turn these animals into what they call living puppets.
Yeah, no. And when Toby comes to the area, he's playing on his little flute, drawing all the animals in the area to him. And then suddenly out of nowhere starts turning on and turning animals into puppets. And one of the ones that it's targeting right off the bat is Unico. There's a little alliance going on with Toby and Yamaneko after Toby takes out Yamaneko's two henchmen. Yamaneko pledges his support to Toby and says, I'll help you get all the animals in the forest. And he's like, we should start with that Unico there first. And they start targeting Unico. They start chasing Unico down until eventually Lord Karuko decides that, Toby, you're wasting too much time.
Right? That was a pretty good voice of it.
And then just shows up there out of nowhere in his little floaty bubble.
He looks weird too. Like, Toby looks like a human. He's just wearing ridiculous clothes. Karuku, you're not sure, what he is.
Yeah, no, it's just, he moves around in a bubble, she, it, whatever it is.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that moves around in a bubble and just kind of talks like this all the time.
There's more to it than that, but if you're not adding, a synthesizer or something to it.
Yeah, it sounds very synthed
very,
out.
very, yeah.
But you can tell Karuko is absolutely terrible at this point in time, and Toby's doing it for a reason. He's following it for a reason in order to be able to get magic so that he can help his people, but at the end of the day, Toby's gone down a very dark path at this point in time in a quest for power. And this dark path leads them to a very uncomfortable place overall, because Unico gets into some trouble and ends up passed out, and he's saved by a girl named Sherry. Talk to us a little bit about Sherry real quick.
She's a very, pure, innocent girl. Pretty young, but she wants to help Unico. Everyone that has seen Unico is like, what are you? And they're really confused by him. And yeah, she's confused too, but she generally wants to help him. And Unico, when he wakes up, he's scared, he's confused. He doesn't try to speak just yet. So they just assume he's an animal. And Sherry's very gently trying to coax him to eat something and just be very gentle. And she's got this soft spirit to her.
Yeah, and she brought Unico back home with her and introduces Unico to the parents. So it's definitely one of those things where she's trying to help raise this animal that was in trouble back to health. If you like what you're hearing so far, you can watch this movie for yourself on Crunchyroll, home to over 1,000 anime and simulcast, both subbed and dubbed. It will be listed in the show notes. And remember, click on those social media links too, subscribe, and follow. All right, we've talked about Sherry, we've talked about Toby, and we've talked about Sherry's family. Talk to us about that scene where Sherry and Toby are together at the same time.
So you find out that Toby's actually Sherry's older brother. They don't give you the details exactly on when he left or why he left, but it was a little while ago, and Sherry definitely misses him. And there's some things going on. His dad misses him, his mom misses him, they all miss him, but when they see Toby, they're like, What's going on with you? Why are you dressed like that? What exactly happened? And he's just like, I'm learning magic. And he tries to give Sherry a new doll and give his mom his beautiful dress. And they're like, you guys can want for nothing. I have magic. I can make it. And the mom and dad are like, no, this isn't what we want. We don't want all this stuff. We have a good life, even if it's not that fancy life. And it just kind of just keeps going downhill from there.
And this is all piggybacked on Lord Karuku giving Toby an order, stop wasting time with the animals, turn the humans in that village into puppets. Because Lord Karuko's big grand master plan is to build this ultimate fortress that reaches high into the sky, that covers over vast land, that incorporates all the former life on Earth as living puppets.
Yeah.
And Toby's now in a spot where he's trying to tell his parents and his sister to run and hide, but at the same time, Yamaneko's also trailed Unico to that point in time, and he's working with Toby, and so they kind of still wants to turn Unico, but at this point, Lord Karuku shows up in the middle of that family meeting, and Sherry and Unico are able to hide in a corner, and Karuku just turns Toby's parents into living puppets right in front of him, right then and there.
Such
and
a
at
jerk.
that point in time, Toby knows that he bit off more than he can chew, but he also realizes, in order to save my sister, I need to turn the rest of the people in this village into living puppets.
Yeah.
So he plays his Pied Piper song and turns them one at a time into puppets, a grand parade. It's actually quite a very eerie yet fascinating musical number.
That's a good way to describe it.
It had you drawn in, but it had your heart pulsing. It wasn't easy to watch, yet you had to watch it.
A train wreck, yeah.
So, and they all march to Toby's ship and go back to the Dark Island where Lord Karuku is building his puppets. And these puppets are moving on their own to Toby's tunes. And Sherry wants to save her parents. So Sherry and Unico sneak onto that ship.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the encounter and what they encounter when they get to this dark island.
They realize the entire thing is made out of living puppets.
Yeah.
Like all of it. The floors, the ceilings, the walls. So that's a little scary. That might have had me packing. I'm not going to lie. Cherry and Unico are much braver than me. So when they're there, though, there's like this dragon, not dragon thing. It's like a toy. But
It's like
giant,
a toy dragon.
And it just makes the most obnoxious, like, alarm sound and starts to chase them.
They don't get away. They run into Lord Karuku. Karuku tells Toby, turn them into living puppets. And Toby's like, how about I turn them into toys instead?
Yeah.
Because he also has that ability. But Toby, reason why he volunteers to turn them into toys is because he knows he can undo the toy spell. He can't undo the puppet spell. So he turns them into toys and puts them in Lord Karuku's collection with the goal of going back to free them.
Yeah.
And after Karuku has some sort of weird psychedelic play scene where he's playing with all his toys, all of its toys, whatever it is. Eventually, Toby just kind of sees him and Yamaneko sees him and Lord Karuku puts them all away. At that point in time,
He got mad at Toby.
yeah. At that point in time, Karuku leaves and Toby frees Sherry and Unico and tells them to run. And they head off on their adventure to find a way to reverse what Karuku has done.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about this adventure.
So they're traveling along, and I don't remember how they get the first piece of information.
They get the first piece of information because they go to an island where the demons of that world exist, and all that's left is the little children. All of them have been turned into living puppets except for the children.
These little baby demons, and they're not like demons like big scary monsters. There's like little teeny creatures are just crying because their parents are gone. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sad.
And they tell Unico to seek out the Sphinx so that they can learn how to reverse this magic. Mm-hmm. So they seek the Sphinx, and the Sphinx isn't there, but the Sphinx kid is there. Yay. Talk to us a little bit about the child.
So her name is, I'm going to say her, because that works for me. Her name is Mars, and she's this, like, not good. It's like she pretends to be brave, but then, like, when the rubber meets the road, she is like, or she'd be like, why did you do that? You hurt my tail. And then she'd be like, I don't know. She's a fun character. She joins them on their quest. So at first she's like, my mom's away, but I know everything that she knows because she's taught me everything. And Jerry's like, well, do you know how to beat Lord Karuku? And they're like, how do you expect me to know that? I don't know that. Ask me something easier. And you're like, what? So it's a fun character. A little annoying at times just because, like, she said she'd know everything and then she did not know everything. But still very fun.
Yeah, and it does know one thing. It knows to point them in the direction of the Trojan horse.
Yes.
And Sherry's going to go on her own at this point in time. She doesn't want to put Unico in any more danger. But at this point in time, as Sherry's going off, Unico, because it taps into some of its emotions, it gains some of its powers back, and it turns into this beautiful alicorn. And it scoops up Mars, and it scoops up Sherry, and flies them to the ends of the earth, because the Trojan horse is the only one with any information on how to stop Lord Karuku. Mm-hmm. And the Trojan horse lives at the end of the earth, where all the earth's trash and all the earth's garbage gets discarded to, where it all ends up there. And no sunlight shines in except for on one very specific spot. And they get there and they start cleaning off the Trojan horse and basically making it clean and taking away the dust and the cobwebs.
Still an old, beat up giant
rocking horse. Yeah.
But at the same time, it went from being this, like, very pale looking thing to you got to see some of the color get brought back because they dusted it and they cleaned it off real good.
And the Trojan horse tells them the story about the Ray of Light and Lord Karuku. Talk to us about what Lord Karuku really is.
So Karuku himself is a marionette puppet. He's been around for a long time, but his original owners were terrible. Yeah. Terrible, kind of like hateful people. They pulled his strings too tight. He got like wound up. They didn't give him the love that you should show to it. Like puppets, honestly, my parents were puppeteers. You had to treat those good. You had to treat them nice. We didn't use marionette puppets, but other puppets.
I have some marionette puppets.
Yeah, we have marionette puppets. But like if you pull the strings too tight, if you twist them all up, it's not good. So these were really terrible, terrible people. And eventually he just got discarded. He wound up at the ends of the earth and somehow ended up where the one single like sunshine was exposed to. And over time, he basically gained sentience. And with that, this hatred of humans, basically.
Yeah. Lord Karuku was a discarded puppet that was abused and abandoned, that had a mystic light shining down on him, that brought him to life and gave him the vendetta against all humanity and all the living because of what happened. And now Unico and Sherry and Mars can go back and confront Lord Karuko with the knowledge of what he is. And they're going to fight his hate with love.
Yeah.
And I know it's a very simple anime trope, and I know that it was overused a lot since then. But, let's give this a little bit of pass. This was 1983, before it was as overused as it was. And they head back to Lord Karuko's area, and that seems like a good spot to leave off here, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to spoil everything and how it all.
I am going to say the ending's weird. Like if you like weird, like this movie is weird.
This is weird.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of early '80s, late '70s influence in this movie.
Some of those '80s phrases threw me off.
Yeah,
like just some of the phrases they used.
Yeah, you're going back in time when you're watching this because it kind of really reflects the weirdness of that era as a whole. Mm-hmm. So,
like one of them in the beginning when Toby's originally turning the animals into living puppets, one of Yamaneko's buddies, like they can tell Toby's a bad guy, and they're like, "Hey, just stick an egg in your shoe and beat it." And I'm like, "What the heck is that supposed to mean?" Come on, '80s, what was that?
I mean, it was pretty adorable. And by the way, before you accuse us of being a couple of like millennials or Zoomers that are hating on the '80s, we're both '80s kids.
We're born in the '80s.
Like, yeah, no, we're making fun of our own generation here.
That wasn't our generation. Never said that, to be honest. I'll admit it. I'm going to be the millennial. I'm not hating on them, but I'm like, what does stick an egg in your shoe and beat it mean? Obviously, it means get lost, but still, like, every once in a while, you come up with a little gem of an old 80s thing that isn't said nowadays, and it's funny.
It definitely was funny. So, once again, we took a look at Unico, and we just explored a little bit about this little baby unicorn, and then we met the big bad boss, Lord Karuku, and then the friends that they both made along the way as the sides formed and the battle lines were drawn, and the journey that they took to the end of the earth to meet the Trojan horse to learn about Lord Karuko. So anything you want to say about it before I wrap us up?
I know it was a pretty good watch. It was very different, especially if you're just not used to the 80s thing. But, it was a good watch. I genuinely think that if you like stuff that's older, go for it. If you're not into it, try it. You might like it.
I think the weirdness of the end kind of threw me off.
Yeah, that's fair.
It doesn't end your typical way. I'm not saying any more about it beyond that, but at the same time, this is the premise leading into how Unico ends up in this area. Like, I'm kind of curious. I want to see some of the other movies off of it.
I'm thinking about it, to be honest.
But at the same time, it's just, it was very weird. Not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Just saying that if you're going to watch it, be prepared for that. And beyond that, I kind of liked it. The reason why we picked this out is because apparently, like, I saw this as a child somewhere, somehow, and I spent all these years trying to track it down and find it again. I finally found out what it was after like 20 years of searching. So, and I'm glad I found it. So there's an element of nostalgia that makes it worth it to me. So I hope you had as much fun exploring the world of Unico in the Island of Magic as we did, and consider watching this anime movie. So if you like what you heard today, make sure you listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you stream your podcast. Listen to all of our J-Mill for Real podcasts. And hit us up on social media, like, subscribe, and follow. Once again, this was Exploring Anime with Friends. Let's explore together. And now for a word from our sponsors. Bin Buster. Live from YouTube, it's Tuesday night, the call sign of the Bin Buster YouTube channel. Once you hear this, you know you're about to embark on a journey through pop culture, movies, comics, and more. Buckle up and enjoy the ride every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. EST. Poppin' Cinema with Joe Mama and friends. Showcasing the power of cinema, join Joe Mama as he introduces different friends each week to a movie they have not seen before, popping their cinematic cherry as they talk about the movie they just watched every Tuesday at midnight.